What are you doing here today?
So let me explain.
Okay, please explain.
Okay, let me calm down first.
Yeah, okay.
So I was chatting with this person.
Yeah, and who was this person you were chatting with?
I don't know her name.
But what did you know about her? A girl?
Yeah.
And how old was the girl?
So it was stated as 19.
But what did the girl tell you her age was?
Yeah, she said 15.
15.
Oh boy. We have another alleged predator caught up in a sting operation, this time out in Michigan. And here he is a college professor. And the man who helped catch him? Chris Hansen. We're going to sit down with Chris to understand how this whole situation unfolded. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, let's go to Michigan. More specifically, let's go to Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti. And this is where the administration has suspended a professor who was caught up in a child predator sting back on October 15th. We're talking about Professor Vijay Mannari, director of the EMU Coatings Research Institute and interim director of the School of Engineering. Apparently been teaching there since 2003, became a full-time professor in 2012. And Mannari doesn't seem to have any sort of criminal history that we could find. We put his name and location into the search on TruthFinder, and the powerful background checker didn't come back with any blemishes on his record. And by the way, Law&Crime, we partner with TruthFinder. We use it to get details on people involved in our stories, but even if you don't work in true crime, it could just be an excellent resource to give you, peace of mind. It's one of the largest public record search services in the United States. And with a paid subscription service, you can get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. And by the way, right now, if you're interested, you can get 50% off of your first month of confidential background reports. You just got to go to truthfinder.com/LC Sidebar. So what happened? Well, Mannari was confronted and apprehended by police at a home in Huron Township, Michigan, where allegedly he tried to meet up with what he thought was a 15-year-old girl that he thought he had been texting. Turns out it was actually an undercover officer. And you know who was waiting for him? It was the Genesee Human Oppression Strike Team, and someone followers of Sidebar will recognize right away.
What are you doing here today?
So let me explain.
Okay, please explain.
Okay, let me calm down first.
Yeah, okay.
So I was chatting with this person.
Yeah, and who was this person you were chatting with?
I don't know her name.
But what did you know about her? A girl?
Yeah.
And how old was the girl?
So it was stated as 19.
But what did the girl tell you her age was?
Yeah, she said 15.
15. Okay, so you came here to meet a 15-year-old girl.
So I can explain. I mean,
Okay,
if you
please.
can please believe me.
Yes, please explain.
I'm not a type of person that you might be thinking,
Right.
and I don't have any other way to explain, but I'll try my best to explain.
Please.
That's right. It was renowned predator catcher Chris Hansen who was waiting for him. This is from an episode of Takedown with Chris Hansen on TruBlu. And here to talk more about this is the man himself, Chris Hansen. Chris, good to see you.
Jesse, good to see you.
My goodness, another
few weeks.
sting operation. I was incorrect when I said it, because it wasn't just the Genesee Township and you. It was also the Huron Township
Huron
Police?
Township Police Department and the
Yep.
Genesee County Sheriff's Ghost Team, which helps train other agencies in doing these predator stings. And as you saw, one of the men who got caught up in this was a professor from a local university, a prominent university.
How did this whole encounter start?
So the decoys with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department go into chat rooms posing as kids, boys and girls. And the alleged predator has to make the first contact, which happened in this case.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Chat rooms are still big?
I shouldn't say chat rooms, I should say platforms.
Okay.
So there are all kinds of platforms where people meet and greet, and sometimes they're for sexual purposes, sometimes they're just for chatting.
Yeah.
And very quickly, these conversations go over to texting. And that's what happened in this case. So now the professor is texting with this girl, or someone he thinks is a girl, and they go back and forth. And he raises the specter of sex, and does she need money? And after a lengthy conversation, but no more than a few hours, he shows up at the sting house. And he says he's there just to help the girl, that he's done this before, that he's sent money to women who are in vulnerable situations. But that's not really the way this appears, because he walked in, Jesse, and he locked the door behind him. So if you're just there to help the girl, why do you lock the door? And what's all this chat about having sex with the girl and cuddling and seeing where it goes. It's a pretty incriminating chat.
When we didn't play the full clip, everybody can watch it on Takedown on TruBlu. When he first comes in, the decoy has an interaction with him. What's
Yes.
that interaction?
The interaction was very short in this particular case. I like it when, and I think it's very revealing to our viewers, when the on-site decoy, which is played by somebody in law enforcement, a youngish, deputy usually, can chat with the alleged predator because it shows their real intention. And we often see, where can we go? Oh my God, you're beautiful, you're cute, I can't believe you're real, those type of things. And it takes you inside the mindset of the predator. When I walk out, the story changes because now their mind is spinning and they've got to figure out, how the heck am I going to get out of this?
Yeah, it's not like they come in and they go, how dare you open the door for me? I came here to show you this is
and
not
I
what you're
called
supposed to
911
do.
and child services.
Yeah.
That's not what happened here. They say frequently, Jesse, and you've seen this, that they're just there to help this troubled child. But why not call 911? Why not call some government service to help this child out?
Did you know he was a professor before he came in?
We had reason to believe that he might have been. We are able, in some of these cases, to do a pretty good background check on these guys. So we knew that he was affiliated with Eastern Michigan University. I didn't know that he had been there for more than 20 years. I didn't know what he was teaching there. He did tell me and confirmed everything in the course of this conversation. Now, you saw there he was trying to convince me that his reasons for being there were noble, but he was nervous, and the chat, contradicted what he was trying to tell me. And that's what we have in these cases. We have the intention in the conversation, the texts, the chats between this person and the decoy.
Before we get into that, your work with the Huron Township Police and also the Genesee Task Force, talk to me about what that was like, what work they've been doing, because I didn't know about this task force beforehand, and they are very active in these kinds of things.
The Ghost Task Force, which is led by Sheriff Chris Hansen in Genesee County, Michigan, has been active for a number of years, going back literally 5-6 years doing this kind of work. And they become very proficient at it. They have a playbook for it. They have a dedicated ghost team that works on this. And they're amazing to watch in action. So several years ago, I ended up doing an unrelated story with the sheriff. And I had a discussion with him about collaborating on some of these stings. And we've done it now for going on 4 years. And the interesting thing about the Genesee County Sheriff's Office is that the ghost team goes to other jurisdictions around the state and around the country to teach these principles. And this was the first time Huron Township Police in Wayne County, Michigan, right near the Detroit airport, had done such a sting, and it was very successful. But they learned from the Genesee County Strike Force, the ghost team.
Talk to me about, when it comes to with respect to this, Professor, what were the contents of those messages to this undercover
The messages were cagey at first. I can come over, we can hang out, we can cuddle and see where it goes. There's talk about different parts of the girl's body. Pictures are sent of a decoy. He was aroused by that. He commented on how attractive she was. And he was being very careful. And to me, Jesse, this speaks to this slippery slope that these guys get on. They have, in many cases, a problem with pornography, especially with pornography depicting young girls or boys. And so they get into this, they'll probe in a chat room, see what happens. Like in the case of the professor, he admittedly had sent money to a previous young woman. Then he sees his opportunity. And he's married. He's got grown kids. He's in a classroom with 18 to 22-year-old boys and girls, men and women, young men and women, every day. So you have to wonder about his activity on campus for 20 years. Was this the first time he decided to go out and meet somebody who was underage? It raises a lot of questions. And that's why I think you saw Eastern Michigan University take such quick action, taking him off campus and out of the classroom, pending the outcome of this investigation.
I'm going to read a statement from them in a minute. I want to play you another clip and let's talk about it.
And there was sex talk in the chat.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, tell me what you said regarding sexual activity.
in this particular,
Yes, in this particular incident.
I don't remember everything, but I might have said, I probably said that we will not do any sexual thing.
Yeah, but there was talk about oral sex, or there talk about prices and those type of things. There was sexual chat here.
Yeah, I frankly.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. So if you're just coming over here to, but here's the thing, Vijay.
Yeah.
If you're just being a noble man who wanted to help a down and out 15-year-old girl, why wouldn't you just send her money via Cash App? Why have the sex talk and then come all the way over
She
here?
said, I don't have Cash App.
Okay. But why take the risk?
No,
and
I
come-
understand.
and come
I
over
said I
here?
made a mistake. There is no doubt. This is not.
I mean, you see how this looks, Vijay.
Right, absolutely. I don't know how to say that. I really should not have done this at all.
What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, he shouldn't have done it at all.
Yeah.
Right? Here's how you avoid this. Don't chat with people who are underage online. Don't try to exploit vulnerable boys and girls online. We're talking about somebody who's 15, and the laws are very clear here. And what is absolutely outrageous, especially for an adult who is educated, who is in a position of authority, a position of power, is to cross this line and fulfill this fantasy that's apparently been brewing for a number of years and try to exploit a child in this way. What do you think is going to happen, Jesse, if we're not there and a child is there? What do you think happens when that actually occurs, which it does?
I know. I see it way too often. How many times do we cover cases
Absolutely.
about actual sexual abuse that happens? And what was the remainder of the conversation with him before he was taken away?
Well, the conversation continued. I confronted him on the various specific sexual things he talked about, you know, the acts that he wanted to do, the money he was going to give her. And at some point, you know, I run out of questions and I tell the man, look, there are people here who want to talk to you, the Huron Township Police Department. And he's taken away. He was arrested, interviewed by detectives. He gave a full confession. And
He ended up actually confessing
he
everything.
confessed. So now it's up to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office to review the case for the appropriate charges.
And before we get into that, there was another person who was arrested in this operation as well?
We had another person in that same sting who was a federal corrections officer at a nearby federal prison, Milan Federal Prison, and he's been relieved of his duties. He's no longer in that position. But here's a guy, and this is interesting. Jesse, this guy gets online and he's talking with somebody who says they're a 15-year-old girl. And he becomes alarmed at the age. And he ends the conversation initially. He said, this is wrong. You're too young. This is a guy who's married, who served time in the military, who for a dozen years was a federal corrections officer. That's a important job in our criminal justice system. And his children at home are approaching the age of this decoy. And so he sets it aside. He says it's wrong, I can't do it. And a couple hours later, he comes back and approaches the decoy again. And all of a sudden, he can't get there fast enough. What time? When can I be there? Are you willing to do this? And he shows up. And the minute he sees me, he knows he's in trouble.
Yeah, he did not want to sit down. That was clear. They were both arrested.
Yes.
But they both released after, I think, 3 days, 72 hours.
Right.
And the status of the charges, do you know what the prosecution is thinking
Prosecutor's
of
office
doing?
has asked the investigators to provide a download, a dump of each of the suspects' cell phones. And that process has taken a little bit longer than anybody anticipated. So that evidence is now being brought over to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for review, and they'll make decisions on appropriate charges.
But to be clear, the professor and this corrections officer, they didn't know each other. They just were part of the same up with the same
unrelated.
decoy.
They just happened to show up in the same sting.
And I was just talking to you. You've been making a lot of trips to Michigan. Is it prominent in certain areas?
No, I think it goes on everywhere. We just finished a sting in Florida, down in Polk County, and you know, even with Hurricane Milton looming, just days away, we had guys showing up to meet children.
Unbelievable.
Including an illegal immigrant, a guy who was a lifeguard for a Disney World resort, and a guy who was out on bail for a similar case, getting busted by the Bloomington, Minnesota police. He was out on bail and in Orlando on business and shows up in our sting. And those episodes are coming out very soon. The illegal immigrant is out today on TruBlu, and the rest will be out in the next few weeks. Watch TruBlu.com.
I want to read you this statement from the university spokesperson. It says, the actions the individual is accused of, meaning the professor, are detestable and abhorrent and stand against everything the university stands for. Upon learning about this matter, the individual was immediately suspended, barred from campus, denied access to university email, and prohibited from any further contact with the university or our students. Although the investigation remains ongoing, the university is not aware of any allegations against the individual that involve university employees or students. The university is cooperating fully with law enforcement, and we will continue to monitor the situation closely. We take these matters very seriously, as the safety and well-being of our campus community is our top priority. What do you make of that response? And they're saying we don't know of any connection yet.
Well, I think they're telling the absolute truth, and one of the reasons I know that is, in a small world twist, the guy who is communications director for Eastern Michigan University was my former executive producer and then news director at Channel 7 Action News in Detroit, going back literally 30 years ago, Walter Kraft. So I know how seriously he takes that job. I know how that university celebrates its wonderful news when a sports team wins, and I know how seriously it will take allegations like this. So I know for a fact, because I know who issued that statement, that they are taking this very seriously, and they will do whatever is appropriate as the investigation continues.
And just going back to, typically speaking, if somebody engages with who they believe to be a minor online, they set out to meet this person. They clearly, you guys step in, there's no abuse. What do they get typically charged with? Solicitation?
They get online solicitation, exploitation of a minor, using a computer in the commission of a crime, and usually if there is some sort of child pornography or some sort of regular pornography transmitted to a child, that can generate another felony. But they usually catch 2 to 3 different felony charges. And in many times, depending on the jurisdiction, there was a plea bargain. They'll plead guilty to 2 or 3, and sometimes there's a prison sentence, sometimes there's a lesser jail sentence, and sometimes there's probation. But these guys have to register as a sex offender.
I was going to ask you this.
Which prosecutors consider a victory, because at least you know where this guy is.
Right.
You can keep track of him. And if they don't report, then they do go to prison.
What a story, my gosh. I mean, it made the headlines.
Yeah.
I saw you were part of it. I couldn't believe it. A university professor caught up in this, and now a CO as well. Chris Hansen, so good to see you again. If you want to see full episodes if you want to see this full episode, if you want to see full episodes of other takedowns, of other sting operations, Takedown with Chris Hansen on TruBlu, and also you can check out Predators I've Caught with Chris Hansen, the podcast. Encourage everybody to check it out. Chris Hansen, good seeing you.
Thanks, Jesse. As always,
you.
I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us, and as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.